Well, hi there and welcome. Thanks for attending the Web Development and Design Program webinar. My name's Emily Fox. I'm the Virtual Learning Admission Counselor here at HACC, Central Pennsylvania's Community College, and I'm glad you're able to join us today. So today you'll have the opportunity to learn about the Web Development and Design Career Associate degree, as well as a certificate program here at HACC. And this program's student enrollment has grown between 2013 and 2014. Student enrollment grew by 16%, which perfectly demonstrates the student interest in the program. And later on, you'll hear about the need for professionals in the field as well. So before we get started, please know that the presenters are the only ones with microphone rights. However, we do encourage your participation and welcome you to ask questions using the chat box there on the right-hand side. We will also have a time for questions at the end of the presentation. So to give you an overview here on HACC, which stands for Harrisburg Area Community College, we more commonly refer to ourselves as HACC, Central Pennsylvania's Community College, because we reach so much further than just the Harrisburg area. But HACC has 5 campus locations, all in the Central Pennsylvania area: Gettysburg, Harrisburg, Lancaster, Lebanon, and York, as well as virtual learning options. So the Web Development and Design program, which you're here to hear about today, is offered on the Harrisburg campus and online fully. You can certainly do any combination of online or on campus from Harrisburg as well. And students may complete parts of the program on other campuses. That's usually the general education courses, but keep in mind the Web Development and Design program can be completed at Harrisburg or online. So joining me today for the webinar is Ed Van Blargen. He's a professor of web development and design here at HACC. Dr. Van Blargen, he has taught at HACC since the year 2000 and predominantly teaches Web 101, Web 110, and Web 125 courses. So if you decide to pursue the Web Development and Design program here at HACC, chances are you'll be running into Dr. Van Blargen. So Dr. Van Blargen, he received his bachelor's degree in forest science at Penn State University, as well as his master's degree in hydrology from Penn State. He then went on to obtain his PhD in civil engineering from University of Maryland, and he holds a professional engineering license. To give you a brief background on his career path, Dr. Van Blargen started his career in research for the National Weather Service Office, and he later moved on to developing computer software and private consultation. Incredibly, Dr. Van Blargen, he became the first vendor to sell dental software through the web. So using his knowledge and his experience, Dr. Van Blargen, he began teaching over 15 years ago, and we're fortunate to have him today participating in the webinar to share more about the Web Development and Design program here at HACC. So Dr. Van Blargen, I'm going to turn the program over to you.
Thanks a lot. My head's exploding from that wonderful introduction. So I've got a series of slides I'm going to cover. And the first one is why you might want to study the web program and get a web career. I've listed 5 items now. I've listed these 5 most popular items, but what appeals to one person might be different for another. So hopefully something in here appeals to you, and maybe all of them. First, there's some really solid career opportunities. I have another slide that talks about this, so I'm not going to dwell on it right now. But one of the nice things is not only are there existing careers, but it's projected to continue to grow. One of the things I like is that it's got a lot of flexibility, and I've liked this through my whole career. I've always been kind of flexible, and in several ways. One, some jobs you always just work for a firm in an office, 8 to 5. And you can do that with the web program. You can, with a web degree, you can go work for a firm. There's actually a lot of opportunities to work freelance on your own, become a consultant. And in some cases, you're not always going in the office. You can certainly work at home a lot. Further, there's different, and I've got another slide about this. I'm not going to draw on this part, but it's got different options. You can choose the design route. You might be more into development. And there's other associated careers like server administration for web server. Number 3, I like this one too. I like to stick this in. I consider it to be pretty fun and rewarding. Again, not every single part. I would say most people enjoy it because it's something that gives you a lot of gratification. When you do websites, you see them instantly. It's not something you don't see the result. And who doesn't like working on the web, really? It's not overly stressful. I mean, it is challenging, but it's not like a life or death career. So again, it's mostly fun. And I think the program's fun. You get to make some movies in some cases. You get to make websites. Sounds like fun to me. One of the nice things, and this is not only as a student, but in a career, I say work anywhere, can do on any computer. What I mean by that, though, is that you don't need any, as a student especially, you don't need any special hardware for the most part. Unlike some programs where, I mean, you have to go into the classroom and then it's hard to work at home in some cases. For example, if you're doing networking, of course they do have virtual things online now, but with the web, you work on your own computer, you see the result. It's not like some fields where you don't know the solution until you get it marked wrong. Usually with the web, you can see if it's right or not. You see what appears on the screen. Now you do need some special software, but that's pretty easy to get, and it's not very expensive. In fact, most of it's free, by the way, from HACC, since they subscribe to a free license with some vendors. And 5, anybody can do this. Again, it can be challenging, but it's not like rocket science. I mean, if it's not the hardest thing, anyone can do it, any age, any background. We have a lot of different students of various ages and backgrounds. And when I say background, I mean if you have a degree in some other field like history, you can still do web very easily as well as somebody else. You don't need to have been like a math wizard in high school to enter the web program. Okay, next slide. So this one talks about the actual, what the work would entail in a way. And I've listed 3 things here. Of course, one's on the next slide. That's the last one. But the first one, obviously the main focus is to create websites. And that's just a very general job description. But it actually entails a lot of different pieces. And I broke it down into 3 pieces. One is and you'll see that these correspond later to the categories I've listed, like design and development. So the first one is like design. It's actually the visual look of a website. You work with graphics, multimedia, perhaps writing content, typography, and a number of other things. But again, this is that whole, almost like the visual graphics design. The second part really relates to the development option. I just call it structure because it's how you structure the website. And this works with HTML code, programming, and databases, and putting those all together. And the final piece is I just listed as performance, just for lack of a better term, but it's really a lot of server administration, working with usability statistics, how the website's performing, optimizing it for search engines. And so those are the different pieces. And I list them again that way because on a couple of the other slides and discussions, you'll see that they relate to these different categories. And that you see in the next bullet point down, which is the job titles. So the first one, there's a lot of different job titles for web, but the main ones are the 2 I've listed in bold, which are designer and developer. And if you will look online, you'd see different the most jobs would be listed for web designer or web developer. And these again relate to those first 2 categories up top where I said the visual look and the structure. So the designers create that visual look, and developers create the site structure and the code. But there's also other different job titles that you might see: webmaster, web marketer, and you could read those. Last one, user interface designer. There's also user experience designer. Those are kind of related. And I'd like to talk about the opportunities, which is on the next slide, so I'm going to jump there. Now, this has a lot of facts on it. The whole point of this slide, though, is just to show you that there indeed are jobs out there, and the projected growth is pretty good. So the first bullet point is actually statistics from the U.S. Department of Labor, and you can go to their website, bis.gov, and if you have to get in there and search around. But the statistics I'm showing you there are nationwide. I want to be clear on that. So you'll see the median pay and hourly wage. I'll just read them to you in case you have trouble reading. It's around $64,000 a year. By the way, I wouldn't consider that what most people get for entry level, because again, this is median. It's for all people. This is people that are already working, and so it includes people who've been working for 20 years, people who've been working for 1 year, which equates to $30.52 an hour. One nice thing is you can get a job with an associate's degree. You don't need a PhD like I have, certainly. And it lists there the number of jobs. These, again, are the number of jobs currently nationwide, almost 150,000, which isn't really high, but it's not so bad either. The more important thing, I think, is the projected growth, and it's supposed to be much faster than average. They have different statistics, and again, 27% projected is much faster than average. You don't get too much better than that in most fields. One of the nice things is the next bullet point is that, and this relates to something I said before, a lot of these slides I'm going through, by the way, now are more details on my introductory slide. I said about flexibility. Again, you could work for firms both large and small. There's jobs in basically every state, and that U.S. Department of Labor that I mentioned up top has statistics on where the most jobs are. And if you were to look at their slides, you would see that Pennsylvania is about average. There's certainly, it's not in the top five. The top 5 web employers or some other states. 1 in 7 are self-employed on their own. Just to give you some reference for Pennsylvania, I did a job search using a website called Indeed.com. I did that. I listed the date, which was February 29th, so you could see it. And I did 2 different titles. If you ever go to a website like this, you first put in the state. I put in Pennsylvania, and then I put in 2 different titles: web developer, web designer. Before I get any further, I just want to mention some of these overlap. So a lot of the jobs, when I put in web designer, listed some of those same jobs that were web developer. So I wouldn't necessarily say there was 1,200 or 1,300 jobs in Pennsylvania that are new, because some of those were duplicate. But again, it gives you some indication. The web developer had over 1,000 new jobs listed. That's a lot. And web designer was 284. That surprised me, by the way, that there was so much of a difference between a developer and designer, because a lot of times when I've checked, and I check job sites a lot, I don't recall there being such a vast difference. Usually they're about, developers always had a few more than designer, but it's never been as great as what I just saw. Who knows? You could check it another day and it could be a little different. I think, by the way, some of the developer has to do with the fact that mobile applications are a hot item right now, and there's a lot of jobs with that, and nationwide as well. And so web developer actually can cover developing mobile applications. So that's been a big growth there. Now, so far I've talked about the careers. Next, I'd like to talk about our web program at HACC. And what I tend to do, just so you know, is when it's all capitalized, like WEB, I mean the web program, as opposed to if it was lowercase WEB, that means the web in general. So there's really what you do in the web program is start with what we call the foundation classes. And by that I mean everybody takes the same classes basically in the first year. It's 22 credits worth. And I said the first year, except for one class called the capstone, which is the last class you usually take. So it's again to give everybody some basic skills, and everybody gets some courses in development and design. After that, now some people choose before, but the idea is after you've gone through these basic development and design courses, you have some idea which option you want to choose. And then we have 3 options. One that's geared for development, the other one for design, and another one that's a combination of 2 we just call general web studies. By the way, I call them development and design because that was the original name, and I also like one word to describe things. But the actual official titles are listed to the right of those, which is web application development for development and interactive web media for design. And as Emily mentioned, we actually have 2 different programs. One is an associate's, which is a AA degree, Associates in Arts, and the other one's a certificate. And in case you're interested, the associate's is 64 credits, which includes 22 credits of general education, and the certificate is 36 credits. And one of the main differences between the 2 is just that the certificate doesn't have any general education requirements. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same courses, except the certificate doesn't require some electives. So the associates has not only the web courses that are required, it also has some electives, and it has the general education, which is required of all degree students. I'll move on. So next I'm talking about a little detail on some of the program courses. And as I mentioned, the foundation has a combination of both design and development courses, which are the basic skills everybody would need, and also that help you decide which option you might want to pick. And they sort of fall in 3 categories. The first are just general skills for everyone. We have an orientation course, which covers the program and some basic skills, HTML course, and a web publishing, which is basically uses Dreamweaver to publish a website. The second set are geared for design. So you take 2 courses that are geared for design, which we call Design Fundamentals. Another one's Multimedia. And then we have the counterparts on the development side where you take Development Fundamentals, basically where you learn introductory programming and web application development. And then the second one is a specific technology called JavaScript. So again, the Development Fundamentals, covers a lot of different programming, and then one is just JavaScript. Same with the Design Fundamentals. Design Fundamentals covers a lot of different areas of design, and the Multimedia course specifically talks about images, video, and audio, as well as animation. And then in the tracks, you would then pick, again, one of these 3 tracks. The design has 3 specific courses, one that covers image editing, another one that's vector graphics, and another one which is responsive web design. And it also requires 2 electives, 2 design electives. On the development side, there's actually 4 specific courses covering the technologies of XML. There's a database course, what I call Development 2. So the top course was Development Fundamentals. Development 2 is like the second part of that. So you could think of it as Development Fundamentals as introductory web development and programming. Development 2 is advanced. And then we specifically have a course in Windows applications, which is pretty much ASP.NET. And then there's a programming elective where you can choose some other programming language like PHP, Java, C#. There might be some other ones in there. And the general track has just 1 course from each of the other tracks. So it has 1 course from the design, which is image editing. It has 1 course from the development, which is the advanced development. I just call it Development 2. That's actually not the name of the course, by the way. These names I've abbreviated. These aren't the actual names of any course. For example, the development course, Development 2 is called Advanced Web Application Development, which was way too long to put on a PowerPoint slide. And what's nice about the general is you've got 3 electives. I've always liked this, by the way, because in my academic career, I always had programs that had a lot of electives, and I found those to be very useful because you could pick things that well, one of 2 ways. You could pick them that are either something you like or ones that are hot topics at that point. For example, I said mobile web application. I say mobile web. Actually, mobile application development is a big hot topic now. We don't have a required course in that, so you're not required to take it, but we do have a programming course that's an elective in that. And if you really wanted to get a job, you would choose that course and probably can get a job pretty easily. But it might change in the future, so that's why electives are nice. You can tailor it for whatever's hot at that time or whatever you like. Finally, everybody takes a capstone course. That's part of the foundation, but it comes last. And essentially, this gives you somewhat career experience. There's 3 sort of ways to get career experience. One's an internship. I forget another one's called, I can't remember, but they're very similar. Internship and something else are very similar, where you go to work actually for a firm. And we do have that. But we don't have anything set up. I'm sorry, internship is one where you would get it on your own. You would actually find it on your own. You could get credit for it. Something we don't have is where there's firms that take people all the time from us. We don't have that set sort of arrangements. And instead, and again, those 2 would give you actual on-the-job experience. What we have is a capstone course which mimics experience, where in the classroom we set up an experience where you would essentially be working on a live website for a company, by the way, but nobody gets paid. And everybody works as a team, and it covers a lot of different things. The difference here is it's more simulated. For example, you actually have to do interviews. So we make you do an interview, but of course everybody gets the job because you're all enrolled in the course. In interviews, you have to dress up and do other things and go through a formal interview with several people acting like the bosses. So that's what the capstone does. This was a slide from students. On our HACC, we actually have a website set up for the HACC web program. And there's a whole gallery of different students. So we just picked this one slide just to show the array of students. And again, you'll see people they don't all look the same. And of every age and all different, like I said, backgrounds, which you don't see here, but believe me, they come from all over. And I don't mean geographically, but again, some people are out of high school. Some actually have degrees already. Some are actually working in the field and are just brushing up on skills. It's a whole variety. So whoever you are, you would fit in just perfectly. And this doesn't look as good on a PowerPoint, but again, on our HACC program website, there's a whole gallery of different websites that students have done just to show some of the things. And again, most of these come from that capstone course, where every semester that it's offered, students are developing a different website for some actual real firm, oftentimes nonprofit firms, by the way. And the work is just pretty impressive. It's amazing, which it should be because they're done as a team. And even the individual ones are pretty impressive. But you could see when the students at the end of this program apply their knowledge as a team together, some pretty impressive websites come out of it. So there's a whole growth from the start to the end. I'm just going to see what's next after. Yeah, this one. These next 2 slides are a lot of small print. These are the actual official web degree program and certificate. So this one shows a degree, and just in case you're interested, on the left it shows the general requirements on the top left. On the right side of the general requirements are the actual major requirements. This is what you have to take for the major, and you'll see most of these are actually web courses. And then on the bottom are the 3 different tracks. And again, they're listed with their official name: the general, interactive web, which I call design, and web application development, which I just call development. And you'll see all of the official course titles and numbers, which correspond to the courses I mentioned back in my slide where I used abbreviated names. And when you look at the certificate, you would notice that it's pretty much the same. The only thing that's different is there's no general education requirements and there's some electives missing. So for example, back here, the very last line under major requirements says program major elective. You don't have that in the certificate program. And I think there might also be some other electives missing. So this final slide, I think it's final for me. Emily still has some things to talk about. Yes. This is just showing the actual snapshot of I said there was an actual website for the web program. This is the unofficial website. There's two different websites to learn about the program. One is the official HACC.edu, which is where this came from, by the way, these two slides. That's officially from HACC. Kind of official and boring, to be honest. So we actually have our own site for the web program, which is a little more colorful. I will say it's unofficial, so if you see something on there, it might be a little different name. The actual HACC website is the official one. Like I said, just for example, and I don't know this is the case, but the official title is Interactive Web Media Option. That might be called a little something different on this web development site, just like I called it Design. I should mention this was done by students, so it's got to be good. They're much better than what the professors could do. I'll turn it over to Emily.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Van Blargen. That was a lot of great information, and I'm sure the participants would agree. And I even learned some things throughout the webinar as well. So thank you so much for sharing that information. I do want to move on to talking a bit about the admission steps, and I will go through this briefly as I do want to be respectful of your time here as a participant. But keep in mind, if you do want further details to the admission steps, we have a detailed admission step guide. You can send me an email at ejfox@hacc.edu and I'll be sure to send that out to you. But just briefly going through the steps here as far as what you would need to do if you're hoping to become a HACC student and even go into this web development and design program, which we heard so much about today. So the first step is to apply online for free at hacc.edu/apply. From there, we recommend that all students look into financial aid options, and the first step for that is to fill out the free application for federal student aid, your FAFSA, at fafsa.gov. From there, students go through placement testing in math, reading, and writing, and it's really just to determine what course or courses would be best for you to start at as a student. So it's not timed, but it usually takes students about 2 hours to go through placement testing, and that can be done on any campus location or online. From there, students go through the new student orientation where you learn helpful information and policies to help you be a successful student here at HACC. The orientation takes place on any campus location, or it is also available online if you would need. From the new student orientation, students reach out to an advisor or counselor to put together an educational plan. And part of that educational plan is registering for classes. Gina Bowers works very closely with virtual learning students, so I did put her contact information here on the slide. But keep in mind, any advisor or counselor should be able to help you out with registering for classes. From there, students pay for their tuition, and to give you a snapshot of what the tuition looks like here at HACC for the 2015-2016 school year, it's $200 per credit for students who live in one of HACC's 22 sponsored school districts in Pennsylvania, and a lot of those school districts are within the Harrisburg area. Those schools are listed on our webpage. It's $250 per credit if you're in state but not in one of HACC's sponsored school districts. So in the state of Pennsylvania, not in a sponsored school districts. And if you are in a if you are out of the state of Pennsylvania, it's $2.98 per credit. So HACC really strives to be affordable yet very quality education to get you to where you're hoping to go with your goals. And as a last step, especially if you are planning to do the program online through our virtual learning program, we recommend that all students go through a Jumpstart Your Success event. The Jumpstart events can be held on campus, online, or we do also have a recording. And at the Jumpstart event, students are given tips and information in order to be successful online students here at HACC. You can find out some more information about that by going to hacc.edu/jumpstart. And I do have another slide here I do want to touch briefly on resources. Keep in mind, HACC has lots of resources to help you out as a student to be successful, whether you're online or if you're taking classes on a campus or even a combination of the two. If you're still trying to figure out if virtual learning is a good fit for you, I do encourage you to check out two different resources that I have here on this slide. One of those items is a sample course. So you can actually go into our learning management system called Brightspace by Desire to Learn, and you can navigate around, post on a discussion board, take a quiz, just become very familiar with the learning management system. So I do have the access to the sample course posted there in the chat box for you to view. The other resource is to check out a self-assessment. There's 20 questions that you can go through to determine, hey, is online a good fit for me, or maybe on campus would be a better fit. And I do have the self-assessment link posted there as well. Some other resources I'll just touch on here. Tutoring is available for students on campus or online. We have online tutoring available 24/7 through Smart Thinking. So if you're working, juggling a busy schedule and you're doing your coursework at 2 a.m., our tutoring center here on campus is not open, but Smart Thinking is available there to help you out with tutoring at that hour. Another resource to check out are the iTunes U courses and collections. It's free supplemental material available to you as a student or even a non-student. You do not get college credit, but it can be a great way to maybe hear a different perspective about math or English or different subject areas from varying professors. I do have information that I'll post about that in the chat box as well here. Career Services is another resource that we have at HACC to help you out. Career Services, they can help you put together a resume. They can help you with interviewing, mock interviewing. They can also give you a lot of salary and career outlook type of information for the area that you live in. They do also have connections with various employees for internships or possibly even a job, and ultimately it's up to you to land the job, but it can be a great resource to get you to where you're hoping to go with our career services here at HACC. Two other resources that I will talk about. We have a Student Resource Center and Lounge within the Learning Management System here at HACC, where students, even if you're taking a class from afar, you're able to interact with students similar to what a lounge would be on a college campus. Go to the Student Resource Center and lounge with your questions, your comments. All students can gather there. And we do also have a club geared towards virtual learning students, the Virtual Learning Student Advisory Council, which is essentially the student government association for virtual students here at HACC. So I encourage you to get involved and make the most of your experience. Lastly, I do want to mention an event that's coming up. You heard from Dr. Van Blargen here during the webinar today. You'll have the chance to interact with him again on Tuesday, March 15th at 12 o'clock p.m. through Twitter, HACC Virtual, using that hashtag. We'll be holding a Twitter chat to talk more about the web development and design program. You're welcome to tune into that and also ask any questions that you have using that HACC Virtual hashtag. For more information about that Twitter chat, I will post a link where you can find out, maybe you're new to Twitter and you want a little bit of help knowing how to access that. You can find out more information about the link that I just posted there in the chat box. So I know you've been given a lot of information today about the Web Development and Design program here at HACC, as well as some admission and resource information. I hope you found it to be helpful, but we do know maybe you have some questions, and you are welcome to type your questions into the chat box. Dr. Van Blargen is present. I'm present, so any questions you may have about web development and design, admissions, HACC in general, feel free to type it there in the chat box. Nicole, it looks like you have a question here and you're wondering, do you notice more opportunities for associate degree students over certificate students? I'm actually going to pass this along to, okay, well there we go. Dr. Van Blargen is saying yes. If you do want to explain that further, feel free to chime in. And you can see from Dr. Van Blargen's chat response there, in his opinion, everybody needs a degree. So he is recommending the associate degree, but certainly certificates can be helpful for students as well, just depending on, what they're trying to get out of their experience. And Dr. Van Blargen, he did mention many times it's our students who already have a degree that are seeking out the certificate. So hopefully that was helpful for you, Nicole. Deb, it looks like you have a question here. You're wondering what four-year schools the Web Development and Design Associate degree would transfer to. And I can tell you HACC's credits typically transfer very well into four-year institutions, but we may have some agreements set up as well. Dr. Van Blargen may be adding to this via the chat box there. So stay tuned. So Deb, I think you can see the answer there that maybe we do not have any official degree transfers set up, but students certainly have done it, and as I mentioned, HACC's credits typically transfer very well into most institutions. So if that's something that you have in mind, just make sure you're working very closely with your advisor to make sure you're taking the correct classes while you're here at HACC to continue on. And you can see from Dr. Van Blargen's response there, gen ed courses typically transfer well to most any other accredited institution, but the web courses may vary from school to school. So again, that comes down to make sure you're working with your advisor here at HACC, and also touching base with the four-year institution that you hope to transfer onto to make sure it's a smooth pathway for you.
I can talk is, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Since I'm a better talker than I am a speller. But again, what happens is, just so you're clear, we have these agreements, and it's just at certain schools. For example, Harrisburg University asked me which schools. There's a whole list of them, but I don't recall them off the top of my head. But Harrisburg University, I know that Lebanon Valley, but those are for specific programs you would enter. Like I think it was Lebanon Valley has a digital communications major. And just for that major, if you picked it, it would transfer in. But otherwise, it doesn't transfer. For example, if you picked like a computer science major at some university, those classes won't transfer because we don't have an agreement with that major. So we have agreements, again, just to summarize, with certain schools for certain majors at their school that this program will transfer in.
Just to add in, I just took a look here at the Web Development and Design Career Associate Degree page here on the HACC web page, and it looks like we do have two institutions listed, the Bloomsburg University and Franklin University, which students could, it looks like, transfer onto. So I'll post the link here in the chat box if you find it helpful to view.
I hate to say anything negative because HACC's a great place, but these agreements are sometimes hard to find. Unlike actual transfers are very official and they're all well known. These agreements, sometimes we actually have trouble finding them as faculty where these agreements even exist. They seem to be in, like, we do them and then they go into some black hole and we have trouble even finding them. But they do exist. That's why we don't have an official list, actually. I don't know why. It seems like we should. One of the things I wanted to mention back at a question before about the certificate and degree. This is just my opinion. I just think the degree is better for the main reason is that if you don't already have a degree in any field, then you should have a degree to really enhance your career opportunities. Now, if you already have a degree in another field, that's great because the certificate technically is all you need. However, logically, I don't know why you would, because if you already have another degree and your Gen Ed transfer, you basically can get another degree, a web degree, for the same effort as a certificate. The main reason, as I typed it, is a certificate is really mostly, in my opinion, for someone who has a degree already in some other field, even if it's history, where it might be an old degree and the Gen Ed credits don't transfer. Well, now you're faced with a lot of extra credits. But anybody with a recent degree, the Gen Ed should transfer. But you won't know that till you actually try the transfer into HACC and see if they count or not. And the reason I mention that is a lot of schools changed their Gen Ed requirements over time, including HACC. And so that's the main reason. That's it. I'll mute myself.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Feel free to type it there in the chat box. While you're thinking of maybe some more questions that you may have, I do want to mention as well that HACC has an open house coming up on Saturday, April 9th at 10 o'clock a.m. That takes place on all campus locations, and we do also have an online open house. There's a $1,000 tuition giveaway drawing at each open house, including the online open house. So if you're looking to start this program either this summer or fall, I'd encourage you to attend the open house and maybe even win $1,000 towards your tuition. I'll put the link here in the chat box if you want to register and find out more information about the open house. It's right there in the chat box. So if you're looking to start this summer or fall, new student registration begins on April 11th to give you a timeline. So if you are planning to become a student here at HACC, now's the perfect time to start the admission steps.
Hey, it's me again. I like to beat a dead horse. I thought of one other thing about the certificate. And again, the whole point is the certificate makes sense in certain cases. One being, again, if your gen eds don't transfer, or if you're already working for a firm and they just want you to go back and get some improve your skills, the certificate makes sense there because you already have a job. But again, if you don't have a web career already and you're looking for one, you want to get the degree, and like I said, because it works for someone that already has a degree or someone that doesn't have one, it works either way.
Great, yes, thank you. Well, if there are no further questions, feel free to contact us. Our contact information is listed here on the slide, our email, phone number, web page. Remember that we do also have a Twitter chat that will be held on March 15th, going back to the slide here at 12 o'clock p.m. using the hashtag HACCVirtual. So if there are no further questions, feel free to leave at any point. Thank you so much for attending the Web Development and Design webinar today. Hopefully you did find it to be helpful, and enjoy the rest of your day.